Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound podcast. I'm your host, I'm Nadeina, head of growth at SaaS Groups. Here look where we're buying wonderful SaaS businesses to take them to the next level. And here I chat with founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business a success. So today with me is Vova, founder of Freemius, an all-in-one platform for payments, subscriptions, and taxes, helping you sell software globally while focusing on building great products. So let's see how you do
Amazing.
this. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Great pitch. Maybe we should hire you on that. But yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And, great to have you here. So, you are, a merchant of record, as far as I understand, for lots of businesses. So, you are doing what Stripe is doing, what Paddle is doing, but you're focusing on WordPress businesses or have
So
been
we
so
yeah,
far.
have been. Yeah.
Okay.
We're still very much into WordPress. Historically, this is the ecosystem we started with for various reasons. And in the past year and a half, too, we basically expanded to the greater software, still focus exclusively on software. And the expansion is to SaaS, desktop apps, Chrome extensions, anything software, not necessarily in the WordPress ecosystem. Yeah.
Okay. So, before we jump into this, maybe take us back a little bit why you started this and where you were coming from.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I was always on the technical seat, co-founder and CTO. 10 years ago, it's been a while, actually a little more, my company, my previous startup was acquired. I was kind of looking what I want to do next. And I had this side hobby, which was a little micro SaaS that I was really enjoying doing on the side, getting the feedback loop, the excitement from users. And I checked statistics and I realized, oh, I have quite a lot of users. Maybe I can turn that into something that it's bigger than just a side hobby. And I joined with another guy, and we spent about a year commercializing the solution, basically taking it from like a free, widget, a micro SaaS, into a subscription-based freemium product. And it worked pretty well. We started to pay ourselves salary. We've been self-sustainable out of it, profitable from the beginning. But what was really interesting to discover is that the core product didn't really change, and it was something that I built like in 2 weekends of my spare time during the previous startup, but we still worked over a year on all the commercial stuff around that. So this was my kind of eureka moment, realizing, for developers, technical people, building the products, it's actually not the most challenging part, but actually turning that into a business and working all those integrations and payments and taxes and company and here and that, it's like way more time consuming, many times more complex. And that was kind of, that moment that I realized there is a bigger problem, and I want to help others who are like me, who have those passion projects, micro SaaS, wish they could work on that full time, but they can't really spend so much time on just testing it out if it even works. So the initial idea of Freemius was to come up with a platform that will reduce the time to market from, I don't know, a year, month to a matter of minutes. So this is how Freemius started. That's the origin story. And the reason we focused initially in the WordPress ecosystem, because it was the biggest when it comes to inventory. WordPress has probably 200,000 plugins and themes, and most of them were free, and many of them were like side projects of people. So it felt very like natural to start there. And yeah, that was, that's the history, the origin story, I would say.
Yeah, and I guess, well, it maybe gave you a bit of an advantage on how to get your first customers because then you just operate in this ecosystem. But yeah, tell me more how you found your first people.
Yeah, so it was very challenging and time consuming because like Freemius, basically it's like a business in a box. So you put everything on a platform, and it's very hard to get started because you still don't have case studies. So there is this leap of faith of someone, to agree to put their business on a platform that is still don't have that like proven record. So finding the first customer was extremely time consuming. It took me about a year to get there. And naturally, you start with smaller, makers. We call our audience software makers. And over time, the more confidence you build, you kind of gradually increase in terms of the size. So initially, we brought up only those who are just starting with new products. Later on, we started and developed a whole like migration operation at Freemius, because in the end, we do want to bring businesses who are already making money. That's where the money, and that's where we can help them a lot. So that was kind of the initial, and over time it's became easier and easier. More case studies, testimonials, videos, people who are referring their friends because they're happy on the platform, and so forth.
I've talked to quite a few founders who operate in this kind of widget ecosystems or started there. And usually there are two very polar opinions, like how to thrive there. One would say that, okay, whenever there is an unhappy customer, we basically go to any length and do everything so they're happy again. We give them a free year or whatever. And there would be another person who would say, you know what, we do nothing. If they're unhappy, that's fine. That happens. We try to pile the unhappy experiences and fix the core of the product so there are less of them over the years or over the course of some time. And that's another approach. What do you do?
I think the approach is changing over time and where you are, right? If it's your first, like very first customer, you want them to be happy, right? Or the minimum that you need to do is to understand like deeply what is the problem. I mean, if the fit is there between what you offer and the customer, and they provide you like valuable feedback because they're unhappy for whatever reason, that it's valid, then I'll try to make them happy, because the same concern will come up from others. So I would say, again, early on, you need to be closer. You need to go way and beyond, as long as there's a fit. Because if the person, you are selling a bike and they want a spaceship, that will never work. You are not going to build a spaceship, so it doesn't make sense. And over time, right, things are getting clearer, your roadmap is getting clearer, you're getting busier as an operation, you already have clear direction, maybe annual goals in terms of the roadmap of what you want to achieve. And as much as you're trying to make people happy, you need to be focused on your vision, your direction, because as a product person, as a founder, you need to have very strong like sentiment of where the product is heading, and not what the loud customers are screaming. You need to have like real clarity about the future. So I guess it's somewhere in between, and that is changing over time. So initially it's like closer and doing more, but over time you can like naturally things, you become, I'm not saying you have to always be close to the customers, but it goes more to a feature request list or whatever, complaints, and then you see based on demand if it's actually something that you do want to prioritize.
So it's a bit of a balance of your vision and what customers want.
Right. I mean, in the end, your vision, or maybe not the vision, but the way you get your vision, it's something that your customers will impact. Like if you're like death to your customers, that's a problem, because you're building the product for them, not for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just mentioned that at the very beginning it was difficult to find the customer because you were asking them to put something on the product that wasn't really working, wasn't really validated just yet. So how did you price that kind of solution?
Yeah, so pricing is a big thing as well. I think that our pricing was, I mean, it changed from the beginning. We learned that it was not a good fit. So when we started, there were not a lot of solutions. Like the concept of merchant of record didn't really exist, the term. And conceptually, the way we saw ourselves was like closer to something between a marketplace. like we're not sure exactly what is the beast that we're really building here. So the reference that we took from for the pricing aspect came actually from marketplaces, which later we discovered is not a good fit. So we also adjusted the pricing, significantly reduced it because we understand it's not the same thing. And also recently we made a major like repricing thing that we can, I don't know, maybe talk about that. But pricing is a key part for sure. And that's also, it also comes to being close to your customers, the value that you bring them, the cost, right? You can't, I mean, obviously customers want the lower prices possible, but you also need to build a healthy business, especially if you're a bootstrap company and not funded, right? So you can't just like be burning more than you're making because you won't survive. So there is all these different variables that coming in, but you always have to listen. That's the key, I think, in business.
Yeah. So why was this recent price change, and how often do you do them?
Yeah, so I think we had this is the third time we adjusted prices in almost 11 years. So it's not frequent, but our business is revenue share based. So it's not the traditional like SaaS when you pay something, monthly or annual. So the first step was, like I said, we realized based on discussions and feedback that we got that the initial pricing that we had in mind was just wrong. Just it won't work. So we had to adjust. That was the first stage. Later we came up with something like gradual, like a little tweak, I would say, and now we made a major shift. And the major shift came from a combo of feedback, being also competitive in the market, as well as becoming a more mature company. So before the price change that we had right now, we had this little like gradual pricing that once you hit certain threshold, your price goes down and so forth. It's not a lot of difference, but the reason we had that is because we realized that the initial support load and both technical and also strategic and all of that was significantly higher in the beginning. And because we don't charge any setup fees or anything like that, that was our way to kind of get that return on investment initially. So we had those like brackets a little bit, but over the years, we significantly improved our documentation, the way to integrate our SDKs, the developer experience. So it became easier, and that initial support load went down also in terms of how we optimize our tech stack, the servers uses, and so forth. So we realized we're in a much better place, that we can now reduce prices even further and still stay healthy as a bootstrap company. And it's like a two-sided thing. On one hand, we understand the needs of our audience, and we understand that every dollar matters because they can reinvest it back in the business. We also wanted to be more competitive in the market, right, in order to attract more makers. And also because of the expansion to SaaS and apps and all of that, like the market we were playing in WordPress, we were like the only WordPress complete solution that anyone actually offers. But now it's like a slightly different game. The needs are different. So we had to also redesign the solution a little bit to kind of introduce a base solution that is relevant to WordPress, SaaS, or apps, or anyone else. And then the WordPress became more like an add-on component because it's a way more complete solution specifically focused on WordPress. So our base price is now 4.7%. And if you want to use the full like WordPress solution, it's additional 2.3%. So that was a lot of things that I'm talking about just to restructure the base. Another major thing that we've done is introducing growth pricing. And we thought how we can, based on feedback, based on our own pains, dealing with Stripe and PayPal negotiations, we kind of thought what we can do, right, to reduce additional pains when it comes to pricing in our audience. And I'll explain what I mean. So when you're in the revenue share ecosystem business, once you get into certain volume of sales, it's kind of known knowledge, and it makes sense because it can't scale forever that you start a negotiation with whoever is your payment provider to reduce the rates. This is time consuming, annoying, exhausting, distracting, like a lot of it's a pain. It's really a pain in the ass to deal with that. So, and we felt that by discussing, like I said, with Stripe and PayPal, we always, like every 2 years, we go through the same pain. And so that's one problem. Another problem, if I'm a new maker and I have high aspirations or I'm already making a lot of money, whatever, it's like, and I'm considering to use a solution, I don't know how much I will actually pay. Like, I know that I can probably negotiate, but what would be the end outcome? I don't know. So we wanted to basically eliminate those pains, and we introduce like growth pricing, that it doesn't matter how much money you make, you can see exactly and calculate exactly how much you will pay to Freemius. And naturally, the higher the volume, the less you pay. Once you cross 100K on whatever is above the 100K, we take now 0.5%, which is very slim. So we introduce this, and it positions us in a place that we're the only one that have that growth pricing. And I think it gives us a meaningful advantage over the competitors. And I think that generally thinking about pricing is a way to differentiate yourself, not as the main, but as another way to differentiate yourself. It's something unique and worth to consider. So that was a lot about pricing.
That's good. That I absolutely love, because I think we had this conversation with, I think, the guys from Value Ships. They're the pricing experts. You can find them on LinkedIn, and they did a series of webinars for us at saas group. And I remember the first time they said, okay, pricing can be your marketing. And I was like, huh, interesting. Like, I've never, you kind of think about it, but I never heard anybody kind of put it into words like this. And then I started thinking about it, and now you kind of completed the circle for me, because I think that's a great explanation. And this is definitely something that puts you, yeah, at a very advantageous position
Yep.
in the industry. Because, I mean, who doesn't want one of the headaches taken away?
Yeah, exactly. And that's our job. That's what we're trying to do at Freemius, just so you can focus on your business. Let us take care of the money, optimize that for you, and you focus on your business.
All right, since, it seems like you have this figured out, at least for now, right? If you had to give one pricing advice that, I don't know, worked for you or you think would work for most of other founders, what would it be?
Yeah, so there are many things related to pricing. I think that maybe that will be the best advice is think about pricing not as a number or package, but think about it as a journey, right? As what is the process or the journey that a potential buyer needs to go through in order to eventually buy. And think about, because usually companies offer more than a single price point, but I think in the end, if you know your audience well, you have your ICP, and the ICP probably is like should go to specific plans, specific price points. So I think you need to optimize the entire buyer journey to lead the buyer into the specific package, specific buy button, whatever you want them to achieve, lead that entire journey there. And again, pricing is a mega topic. Like you did a series of webinars, but it's all about putting the credibility, the social proof, letting others talk about you and not you talking about yourself, which increase credibility. I don't know, badges of refund policy, psychology behind the scenes, like eliminating as many risks as possible for the buyer to make a decision.
Okay, that's very nicely put. Thank you. Well, one of the other things I wanted to ask you, and I'm super excited about it. It's like one of my favorite topics to talk about, because it's communities, right? And the reason for it is, because, well, I tend to believe we do try to build a community around SaaS Group, right? And on one hand, I think, yeah, it's not really a community. We're just trying to like be very strategic with our brand building and brand awareness, and like still bring people together around us. On the other hand, I think, yeah, it is a community because it's the same people, sharing the same problems, and we bring them together to talk about this, and we're being super intentional about it. So I'm always very biased there. And I also think that communities don't really work right now.
Okay.
At
That's a
least,
bold statement.
yes. I know a lot of people will be like, ugh,
That's
what?
the short. Communities don't work.
Don't work. I mean, and okay, there is a little bit of explanation
Don't put
here.
me in that short, please.
No, it's, and my take is communities on Slack, on Discord, and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. WhatsApp don't really work unless you put a shit ton of time and intention and, lots of thing in. And when I started researching about Freemius, I learned about your community, and apparently it's a very active and engaged one. And I was like, okay, I need to ask you how you're making this happen, and what makes you believe 2025, what makes you believe in communities. Because I remember like 3-4 years ago when communities were becoming very big and everyone wanted a community, there were like a gazillion communities in SaaS, and almost
Right.
all of them are dead right now, but you're thriving. And what's the secret?
Yeah. I think let's start with the core, right? People want to belong to something. And when you said there are lots of SaaS communities, they're probably not focused enough to the main, like, work processes, the day to day that are happening with the people that were in those communities. I'm also part of many communities, but in the end, I have like very few that I'm really active there. And that's what naturally happens. In our case, I can speak about us. I don't want to speak about others. Like I said, Freemius is like you run your entire business on Freemius. So it's something that you serve your customers, you look at, like, it's always something that touches you. And so that's one thing. In addition, like, a lot of our target audience are micro to small software companies. Many times it's like very small teams, and they're like isolated, they're doing it alone. So by having a community of other like-minded makers that facing the same challenges, the same problems, or been there, done that in different stages of their journey, they can get advice from real people. I don't know if right now they're feeling their sales this month are going down, they can ask, hey guys, like, is it me, or it's like network wide, like this is like some change happening in the world. So that's the basic things, just having access to other like-minded people. And like I said, it has to be very narrow in something that it's part of your day-to-day, or at least several times a week, in order for that to work. So for me, when I started Freemius community, like I started, I didn't have experience in communities before, but I just heard from so many, other founders and startups that actually they first started with community, and then they, created a company or software around that community, which makes total sense. So I had that strong input and feedback from other people that I respect that community is really important. So that was the trigger for me, and I started early on. And today, I see the amazing value of the community for many reasons. One big reason for us is the crazy feedback loop, right? You have people straight, like, ready on a real time chat, not always online. But once you get to like a critical mass of thousands, there's always someone there. So if you have questions about a feature that you want to, create, if you want to I don't know, work actually. So we are trying to build like some major components that will impact a lot of our audience together with the audience, the whole build in public thing. So it's not exactly build in public like on Twitter, but it's like working closely with the people who are using the product and trying to shape and get the most out of it. And we're actually in a very unique position because our audience are product people themselves. Those are like founders of software companies. Some of them coming from UX, UI background, others more technical. So we are right now 20 team members, but now we have an army, right, of hundreds of other product people. And I can tell you that we've built several components together with them, and we could not done get it to the same level without a community, because we got so much amazing feedback out of them that is just something that you can't get in any other way. And the foundation of community is also a network. So it creates opportunities for us, opportunities for them. It attracts more people. Again, once you get to that critical mass, it starts attracting additional, interest. So what happened naturally over the years with Freemius, we're also doing physical events, by the way. It's not only on Slack. So we are organizing something we call that Makers Meetup, where it's like a networking event, which is very targeted, bringing the community, not only people that are using Freemius, but also others, and just create those opportunities, being the connector, because we know everyone, so we can connect them with each other. If there are opportunities, oh, you're working on this, maybe you could partner, making those intros just makes everything easier. And like I said, what happened over the years is that buyers and investors in software and SaaS companies and plugins, they want to be close to us. Why? Because we have access to thousands of products, right? So they can potentially invest or buy. So it attracted that. It attracted different service providers that are very relevant to our community that want to offer discounts, right? To get leads from the. So it's like create this like cycle of attraction and value over time that just grows and grows, and it
I feel like we should be friends with
sure.
Because yeah,
is that an official proposal for friendship here?
Yes, please. But I mean, yeah, I obviously meant SaaS Group and Freemius, but yes, okay.
Okay.
But no, it's just what you're explaining is exactly what we've been doing with our events. And I don't know, have you had a chance at SaaS Talk to join our dinner?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't.
I didn't invite you? See, because we weren't friends yet.
But now it's official, so next time, yeah.
Yes, you're on the list. But
so community is massive, that's what I'm trying to say. And it also becomes a selling point in a way that, we market it. It's a big part of what we do, and it creates opportunities. And what I like saying is that we are helping, and this is something that was not planned originally, but it became like an opportunity over the years because of that community, is that we're helping founders from launch to growth to scale and exit eventually. And the way we can help them is also like in the exit component is because of those connections that came out of the attraction of the community.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's where we take
exactly.
them, and that's a perfect match. But yeah, I mean, okay, so let's wrap it up with me saying communities work.
Right.
If you put a lot of work into it and you are intentional. But do you have a person who's like the facilitator in your community on Slack, or is it just natural because, people have been there and they see the value, so you don't need to push them every time?
Yeah, so we had a period when we hired community lead. Unfortunately, it didn't work, not because of him. There was like time zone differences and challenges. Like we want to do more in the community. Right now, we are like there's the physical event, which is one component. The Slack community, I think, once it gets to like a certain critical mass, it just happens. There are some people that are more active, more engaged because they have more time and they're more communicative. Others who are more helpful on the technical side of things. So we and of course there's a team that we're getting involved, but I would say that right now we are missing that someone to be more active and create different activities, and we try that and it's working and it's getting engagement for sure. So we want to invest more in the community.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So, since you just mentioned that you had a person and it didn't really work out, I think in one of the recent podcasts, you were actually talking about some mishires and mistakes in hiring. And this is a very, close to home topic right now because I am hiring for a role at saas group. And man, the experience is so interesting. But yeah, tell me more, like what happened, what were the biggest learnings in hiring, and how do you make sure that your fairly small team is the one that you want to be with?
Yeah. So it's been 10 plus years and there are a lot of mishires for sure. I think like I learned a lot of things about that. I would say that the foundation is okay, it's not the foundation. We moved into focusing on hiring senior people. Why? Because the right senior person, still hands on, because we're a small team, so we're looking for senior hands on people. It's a game changer when you get the right person, a go getter, someone who is a leader, not necessarily will lead people, but someone who will like push a process and you don't need to push them. They can be autonomous, etc. And we're also a distributed team or remote. So we don't deal with micromanagement and all this crap. It's just not part of what we do. So we shifted our focus into more senior people. And the reason we did that also is because we can now pay senior salaries. So that's something as a bootstrap company you simply can't do in the beginning. So you have to compromise on people who are junior. You need to teach them. You need to learn the skills yourselves, then teach them, etc. But back to specific tips. Every person that we interview, we start with an intro call before everything. And I think that's critical to really understand, first feel the chemistry. If it's working, you want to work with people that you don't need to be friends, but like it needs to be pleasant, especially in a small team. But the main thing is to assess if there is a fit. And what I mean by fit is if what we offer in terms of the role and where we plan to grow as a company is something that will fit what you're looking for and your growth aspirations. Because if you already invest in long term, like in hiring, you want people to stay with you as long as possible. So if there is no fit, just will never work. Like you have to, like the new team member has to contribute to the growth of the company, but you need to contribute to their growth, because if they're not growing, they will not stay with you. Simple as possible. So you need to assess that fit, and it's actually very easy. You just need to ask a few questions. And there were many times once I started to do that, this just doesn't make sense. A person want to join as an engineer, but I'm asking, what do you want to do in 5 years? And say, I want to have my own startup. Like, how will that work together? And naturally he's like leaning towards that direction. I don't want to spend 2 years investing in that team member, and then he just jumps to starts his own thing. So assessing that initial fit, I would say that this is like a critical step in that process before getting into interviews and all of that. And also better be more aggressive when it comes to the interviews process, and maybe sometimes like miss some people rather than having shortcuts in hiring the wrong people. It depends if you have like previous relationship with a person and you know them. So there's some flexibility here. It depends on. And another less thing, maybe I'll say that like 1 month is way more than enough to understand if it's a good hire or not. And don't waste your time. Like if it's not, it's not. Just like make it easy for everyone. yeah, you also need to learn how to fire over time or
Are
let
there
go.
any are there any specific questions in that fit culture fit interview?
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple question. There are a bunch of questions, but one of them is like, so there is like, what do you want to do in like, where do you see yourself 3 5 years from now? There is the, what do you expect to get out of this job that you didn't get previously in your previous jobs, right? To learn from what didn't work, whether it will work for you or not, understanding their superpowers. I have like a list of questions that over the years I kind of reshaped, heard through different podcasts, kind of collected the things that are working for me. Another important thing for us, we are looking for missionaries because we're a small team and every team member really important for us. So I always like to hear the origin story of the person, of how they got in what they're doing right now, right? If you're a developer, when did you start to code and why, right? If it's, oh, my parents told me go to study computer science, and okay, it's, you don't necessarily have a passion, for the jump. If you say, hey, I got my first computer when I was a kid and I was excited, then it's like completely different, like a attitude towards, it's like people who love what they do, and this is what I want, people who love what they do, and we need them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Is I don't know a valid answer, like, because when you mentioned where you want to be in 5 years, I'm like, I have no idea.
That's fair.
Okay, good. So you would still hire me.
But if you know that you want to do, something, and that something is, we can't
Mm-hmm.
give it to you, right? Then it doesn't make sense. So it's not like I'm disqualifying every second person that I'm having that intro call, but it's still reducing some, like, why should I waste our time and their time if it's just not going to work from the first place?
Sure. What's the biggest red flag in that fit check?
It's not about like big red flags, it's about misalignment in what they're looking and what we need and growing to.
Okay. All right. I'm just asking because I had a call with a person who really seemed like they were so eager to work, and they were so passionate about this, and they were like, I have the relevant experience and everything. And when they came to the call, because they will work with me directly, so I thought, okay, I love the idea of a fit check, or a vibe check as I call it.
Hmm.
And they came to a call, and they knew absolutely, like, it seemed like they knew absolutely nothing about what do we do and how we do it. And I was like, okay, well, that's not what I want. If on the first call, when you have to be your best self, when it's still the honeymoon
Yeah.
period for us, and even for the honeymoon you're not willing to commit. Oh, I mean, come on. In the marriage, I'm not going to be happy with you. So
That's a interesting way to put that.
yeah. So yeah, that was a huge red flag, and I'm always very
Yeah, I
surprised when it
agree. I
happens.
agree. Yeah, I agree. It's like I'm also asking, like, what do you know about Freemius, right? And depends how much they research and all of that. But I can tell you, many people, they just, in a blitz of like interviews. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
don't take that personally.
No, 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 I don't. I'm just, like I said, I'm just surprised, because
Yeah.
then why do you want this? Doesn't make any sense. Anyway, let's talk about your pivot, or the iteration, or
Expansion.
expansion. That's a better word. Yes. So from WordPress to bigger
Greater
SaaS
software.
tech, yes, everything, all of it. Why move there, and how?
Yeah, so it was always the plan from day one. We were just unsure when it will happen. Like, we first wanted to, get the most out of WordPress. I don't think we still, like, we established ourselves as a leader in our space, exactly in that like merchant of record space specifically for WordPress. But I would say that the trigger to make the change is just some combo of stars that aligned and it happened. Like it started with, I realized that like we want to refresh our brand because we've been like back then 8 years and it's the same foundational. Like I looked at it more from a design perspective, that it was the same stuff that like 8 years ago. So it looks outdated. We're getting like negative feedback. Things are not looking as modern and so forth. So start this like process of, okay, how do we kick that off? And it ended up by chance hiring a head of brand, right? I didn't know that it's like, why do we need brand at all? What's the point of brand? Yeah, but like, you don't know. And then when I talked to her, then like what is brand, because I knew her, I knew the person, and I knew she's talented and we engaged in conversations before, so we had some prior relationship. So when there was this opportunity, oh, I'm looking for my next thing, I said, let's meet and explain me what is brand. Like, what do you do? I'll tell you what are we looking for, and let's see if there's a fit, right? And she told me what brand is, and I realized that I'm doing a lot of brand work, just not realizing that this is a brand. And I said, oh, amazing. You know, she can take, like as a founder, a lot of my work is just peeling off hats over time, especially as bootstrap, because you wear a lot of them in the beginning. So I realized that a lot of the work that I've been doing, including community stuff and those events and like social, it's a lot related to brand. So like she joined the company. We start to feel that, you know, now it's good timing because AI started, you know, to grow, and suddenly anyone can build SaaS, right? So the market is getting like saturated with micro SaaS. So there's this new wave of AI. Everything is AI right now, but like we start to see those signals. So it just happened that the timing was there. It was always the plan. We're not sure what would be the ecosystem. We actually looked on other similar ecosystems of extensions, like in WordPress, that you have like a base platform, and then you, if you want to extend it, you buy plugins and themes, etc. So there are many more of those platforms. So that was our natural thinking, to expand to another platform. But we saw what happening with AI, with SaaS, everything is growing. So it felt like a great, you know, direction to go with. And this is how, you know, we started that process basically.
What was the biggest challenge there?
Many challenges, like anything. But I would say it's, you know, after being so many years in one ecosystem, now you need to educate the market in terms of like awareness, positioning, the language. Like all our marketing was specific to WordPress. So that whole rebranding kind of project, we are still in the project. I mean, it's like 2 years in, and we're still, yes, we're probably 90% already, 80%, but we, like on a weekly basis, we're releasing things related to that rebranding. Because just imagine the footprint that we created over the years as a company, and it was all around WordPress. So now we had to, you know, in addition to the copy, the website, the branding, the messaging, start going to conferences like SaaSiest, right? So expanding beyond the words. So there is a lot of moving parts to get that awareness, being on the podcast, right? And not only on WordPress related posts. So it's like entire additional operation. And of course, the product changes and the experience, the terminology, the foundation of the product was there. It's the same mechanisms behind the scenes, but the experience, the integrations, the pricing, that was a big part. Like all of that, it was all part of that expansion. That was the trigger, I would say.
Yeah, and new competitors too.
I think that the competitors before, they will still are competitors even
Mm-hmm.
before that, because people in WordPress, some of them also went with the competitors and build the missing components that are related to WordPress into some extent themselves. You know, they duct taped different solutions, they figured it out. And that was another reason why we like restructured the pricing, because now if you're in WordPress, like previously we on the pricing level, we're just not competing enough because we're, like I said, offering for WordPress a spaceship while our competitor is offering, I don't know, a race car, right? And so they took the race car because it was cheaper and then build whatever is needed to get to the whole WordPress solution. And now they can also use Freemius, right? Just to get that race car. And if they want to duct tape the rest, we are now offering that as an option because we kind of decoupled the foundation from the WordPress stuff. So you can pick and choose. So that it turned us like that segment of the audience who was more like price focused, price sensitive, and care less about their time and preferred, to do things their own. Now we're also competitive there. So that was another reason for the repricing.
Yeah, interesting. Any changes because of AI? You already mentioned that, AI is everything and everywhere. And, I have this tiny joke where I wake up and the first question I ask, have you optimized your day with AI already? And yeah, it's a bit ridiculous at this point. But yeah, have you optimized Freemius with AI? And how do you work? Did it change in any way the way you work with those who did?
Yeah. So obviously it impacted our operation. So we're all working, whether it's like marketing or development, we all utilize AI in one way or another. We're trying different tools, seeing what is working for us, what is wasting our time. A lot of that is time waste as well, but you need to play and, get the feel to actually see that. So it changed the way we work internally. I think it made marketing specifically way more productive, but also in development when it comes to writing tests and things like that are not the core logic. Like AI is really good about that, and it saves just a lot of time that developers don't want to deal with. Like writing tests, it's not the fun part in coding. So there is that. And when it comes to the product itself, I think the biggest, like we have many ideas and things that we want to do with that, but we're not rushing it. There is this like rush right now. Everyone have to integrate something with AI just to have that, I don't know, put the AI in their website somewhere. I think that the biggest change for us when it comes to our makers, our customers, is that usage-based pricing it became a big thing. It got like a prime, real estate right now because a lot of like previously. Okay, so today most of the new SaaS apps, it's like AI first. People are not building something and then add on top of it the AI. And also, whoever built things that like before, they adding AI components because it's rare that they're like using their own LLMs or something like that. They rely on APIs and tokens and services. Those come with usage pricing, so they have to restructure their pricing in a way that it will make sense and they will make some margin on top of that. So usage-based pricing became very popular these days. And therefore, we, as a facilitator of the checkout and pricing and the different billing capabilities, we had to get into that space in order to basically allow those AI first or people who want to sell AI components to build their customers accordingly.
Okay, and what are you doing in the team? Like, again, everyone wants their teams to know AI, to learn AI, to become AI, I don't know, powered, whatever. And, we at SaaS Group also came to this conclusion that this is freaking overwhelming because on top
Oh
of
yeah,
your day job, you have to magically learn all those tools because they have to learn. I mean, finally, we realized this is not just magic and you cannot just chat GPT a marketing strategy.
you
So,
can.
yeah, well,
I think you
yeah.
can. With the right prompts, it's all about the prompts.
Exactly. But you have to learn how to work with it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that takes time. And
yeah.
we came to a conclusion that we have to be allocating time specifically for learning AI during the
Yeah.
week. And that's what we're doing, and it's super helpful. What have you been doing for your team, if if there are any tips to share?
Yeah. So I feel that like the learn AI pressure is more on the like leadership, and then whatever we learn and like we save the time, the learning time or the wasting time on the team, and try to just come up with, hey, like we did the research, we tried different things, this is what is working. So like our VP of engineering is and CTO, they are more experimenting with AI development related tools. And once we feel that, okay, it's actually productive, it makes sense, after some experience, I don't know, a week, two, depends what it is. And then we talk about it. Okay, makes sense. Then we pass it over to the team and start to encourage them to do that. Of course, if they want to do their own stuff, yeah, but it's not like a policy that we're like mandatory hour of everyone have to play with AI. I think when it comes to hiring, we want to see signals that people are using AI. That's another challenge by itself, by the way, when you're giving tasks that's like all AI right now. And anyway, that's we already talked about that.
Yes.
I personally allocate an hour every week to look on to experiment with AI, whether it's a tool, whether it's a prompt. I'm subscribed to some newsletters that they're sending like weekly prompts that are it's like people that's what they do, they're like creating prompts from different scenarios in businesses, and I'm just trying them, and seeing which one the result like producing good results. And I'm created this Google Doc when I'm collecting prompts that worked really well for me. So if the team or
Okay.
myself will need to use them again, we tested it, this is the results, I was excited or not excited, and we can try them again. And also experimenting with different tools to see to just stay in the game, see what's happening. So yeah, this is what we do, trying, like I said, the pressure, not the pressure, like the experimentation is more coming from the leadership and whoever want to do that, and then we try to apply that to the rest of the team, the things that we already know that are working, because we did find many things it's just not doing, it's like shiny and all of that, but that's what it stays.
Oh, absolutely. So you're not afraid to miss out on a new tool, or God forbid, not try, AI, or not be AI optimized or whatever. I don't know what do you call it these
There's no
days?
way to check everything, it's just
That's true.
impossible.
But it's
Yeah.
so much FOMO. Like, I think over the summer, I've tried so many things because the pressure was on. Like, on LinkedIn, everyone was like, okay, these are the prompts and these are the tools. And, you have to do this and that, and you have to.
Off your
Uh,
LinkedIn notifications.
exactly. That's only my job. But, you know, but yeah, it was stupid. And I was like, oh my God, how do you keep up? And yeah, I also had a subscription for some kind of a newsletter. And again,
Mhm.
they shared so many new tools every week that at some point I just gave up. I was like, that's enough.
So,
No.
so I'm less about the tools. I'm more about the prompts. Like I learned like fundamental things that are maybe obvious, but I can share them because why not?
Yeah.
Like that really produces way better through those emails and newsletters. That produces way better results. One is the framing of AI, right? Like what is your role? What is your background? Like trying to think of who is the best position in the world with what experience to produce the best output that you need. And the second is the style of the output, right? So using again personas that you know and you like in order to guide AI, use that persona for the output. So a real example is when we worked on our like annual OKRs. So there was like I realized that the key results are a little long, and I start to think, and I basically asked it, try to communicate more like Steve Jobs, which is very emotional yet very concise and to the point. He's really good in that, and it produced way better results. So that was like one thing. Or if we talked about like a marketing strategy, this is something that, again, I learned from that newsletter, is that, like, frame it, oh, you are, I don't know, a VC, not VC, like uh,
CMO.
like a what? No, no, not CMO. You're an agency specializing
Better.
in this and that with X years, focused
Mm.
on VC backed startups at certain stage. Just give it all the framing of who they are, what is their role, and then kind of gradually ask it questions. And it worked really, really well. I think it worked really well because it also has all my context over the time, because I built the strategy. I used a lot of AI, so I have, like, my AI have the context of what we do and the entire strategy, so it can produce way better results for whatever prompt. So yeah, there's a lot of things.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. It's such a weird topic, I think, on the other hand, because you when you were describing what you were doing and how the prompts work, and you were saying, okay, it produced way better results. And sometimes, I think, yeah, like strategically, sometimes I also let it kind of brainstorm with me, and I think, oh, that's so much better. And then I kind of pull back and say, wait, why is it better? Why is it better than what I came up with myself, or what my colleague came up with? Like, who knows if this is actually going to perform better? Is there any data on this? And it's just, I don't know, but maybe it's just marketing, and it's so much of an experiment, everything that we do, and there is no kind of
I think it
mm,
depends on what is your goal, right?
true.
Like, I don't know why did you feel that it was better? Like, what was the reason?
I don't know.
Like, okay, but there was a reason for that. So like,
I
for me,
don't-
the task, like that specific task, was, okay, how do I take the existing thing and reformat it into something that's more shorter, memorable, and, like, you can really connect to that emotionally. And it, like, this is what I told him, and this is what it created, so
I think it's cultural. It's Eastern European parents. You always think there is something better.
skeptical, always
Yes,
skeptical. Yeah.
always never good enough. So anyway, yeah, I just have a couple more questions for you. You know, they are usual here, and it's a bit of a reflection on your journey. So one is, what has been you think your biggest win and your biggest failure? And it can be for the business or you as a founder personally.
Yeah. So I will act as if I was not ready for this question. Let me think. Okay. So I think the biggest win is my team, for sure. Like, it's just, where we are right now versus where we were 3 years ago. It's just completely different when you have senior quality people that you can rely on, that are go-getters, that you can be your thought partners. Is just a game changer. You're not, I mean, it's happening in bootstrap companies that the founder is kind of, a lot of the things are on the founder's shoulders, and now it's really a game changer. So I would say the team is the biggest win for me. And also, great team attracts more great team members. Like, they want to bring their friends. If they're, if things are, they're enjoying what they're doing, it's meeting the expectations, a lot of ifs, but if that happening, just attracts, A players, attract additional A players. So this is the biggest win, you said, right? That was. And
Yes,
the
exactly.
failure, am I playing it right that I was not ready
Yes,
for the
yes.
question?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay, good.
exactly.
I'm in the role. I'm
Very
in the
good.
role. And I don't know if it's the biggest failure, but something that I thought about that is, sometimes you can be too innovative in what you're doing, which, like, the market is not necessarily ready for, and it can backfire. So I'll give an example. In WordPress, like, data and seeing what's happening with the users, and it's not something that it's like it didn't exist 10 years ago, because conceptually it's an open source project, and people download and install their plugin or theme, which is like a distributed software. It's not a SaaS, it's the opposite of SaaS. It's like a package that you download, a zip, and install it on the server on the website. So there is this case that you have plugins, which are like products that have potentially millions of users, and they don't know shit about their users. They don't know who they are, like free users, not paying customers. But it's like insane if you think about it from like a SaaS perspective, or like not outside of that ecosystem. So when we started, for us, it was like obvious. You need to know who are your users, some basic information, where they use your product, what websites. But we're like maybe the second player that tried to do that ever. And it was tricky because like developers or makers wanted that because they wanted to get access. But for the users of WordPress, that was kind of what's going on here. Like, why do, and it was all opt-in based. So it's not like mandatory, it was opt-in, but still it was like too extreme for the ecosystem. And it did backfire to us. Like people, thought that we are collecting like data, maybe to sell it. Maybe there are like some, behind the scenes intentions that were completely not there. For us, it was just, you as a business owner, you want to know, if you're running a freemium business, you want to know who are your free users, so you can improve the product, knowing what they're doing, right? So not just based on assumptions. So you can try to convert them to paid customers. Also reasonable if you offer something for free. So all those things, it was maybe too innovative. Right now it's okay and people get used to it. But I think like there is this, like you want to be innovative, right? But maybe not too much.
Not to piss people off.
Well, you will piss some.
Yeah.
You can make everyone happy, but not too many, right? You want it to keep that a small amount.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Then you might be even more surprised with my last question, which is about a hack. Wow. But yeah, anything,
Wow.
that worked for you or other founders may appreciate.
Yeah. So I think it's very easy as a founder once things are moving and you have customers and there's an operation, lose control of your time, of your priorities, just being dragged by supporting your team, supporting your customers, which is not great because that's not how you move the needle as a founder. And also it's not fun, because you always like turning fires off. So I will not talk about the whole process, but I went through this like self-development process, whatever you want to call that, like 5 years ago. And I watched different influencers on YouTube, smart people, not just like people that do have credibility. And I took some things that are working for me. But I would say one good tip is to start the day without your phone with your planning, right? What do you want to achieve that day, rather than wake up, oh shit, I have all these emails, notifications, the server is down, I don't know, whatever it is, and then you get into this like crisis mode that you can't even really think about what you want to achieve or how do you move the business, or you're just like, okay, how do I solve that? And the second thing related to this, so you first like control your kind of schedule. And the second thing is being more chill when it comes to crisis. It's something that you develop over the years, but there are like crises all the time. Shit happens. That's part of business. And there is this, I don't know if you heard of Stoicism, this Greek
Oh,
philosophy.
yeah.
So being more stoic, right? So shit happens. Okay, take the time, like think it through, advise with the team, like don't be emotional about this stuff. Of course, there are emotions. You can't just ignore that completely, but try to be more like move more with the reasoning rather than the emotions, and understand that it's not the end of the world. Whatever it is, it's not the end of the world. It's just part of the business.
I think Stoicism is the one thing that has been mentioned on the podcast the most when people were
Wow.
talking about, hey, you need to chill.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times. I'm actually now
So I
interested.
guess I'm not unique.
Like, I don't know, maybe so what happened? Like somebody was distributing the books like to all the founders. What happened there? But I do actually have a book myself. So
Just
uh
watch the 5 minute YouTube. It summarizes the whole
who needs the
thing. It's
book?
just
Oh God. But you're being very stoic reading it because it's not the best. It's
watch the
pretty
YouTube video.
it's pretty boring. So yeah, I'm going through this. But yeah, thanks for sharing. Those are great hacks. I think, understanding that shit happens is a great understanding just in life in general. And when you're in SaaS and, everyone is making a gazillion dollars in 3 seconds on LinkedIn, it can get a bit much. So yeah, chill. let's let's all do that. But yeah, thanks so much for the conversation. I mean, it's great. I would honestly, we're so much past the time that our
What was the time limit?
it was well, usually like 45 minutes is kind of a good measure. Now it's hour and 10 minutes, and honestly, I would continue. I mean, we are friends after all.
It's
But
official. That's
it's
it.
official.
It's official.
But yeah, let's do it again sometime. Thank you so much for being here.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. And take care.